Before you have really any idea what I'm talking about at all, I will explain the values of the Ba'ath movement. These primary values are uniting Arabs, having a pan-Arab ideology, and having socialism. Baathism is a political movement or a party, while pan-Arabism is an ideology. One of the most important influences of pan-Arabism is the commonality of Arab flags, with the colors of green, red, black, and white being extremely prevalent. Green representing both fields and the Fatimids. Oh, sorry for any mispronunciations now, I really mean it, but I'm probably going to mess up. Red swords and the Hashemites, while representing acts or actions, and the Umayyads, and black battles alongside the Abbasids. As you've probably noticed, this video will talk about both pan-Arabism and Baathism. But just like I said earlier, they are not the same thing. You can be for pan-Arabism, but not part of the Ba'ath movement. But it would be unlikely, yet entirely possible, to be Ba'ath and not pan-Arab in a historical sense, as this was a core belief. The influences on all these flags coming from Mark Sky's flag design for the Arab revolt during World War I. And although at the time this is only intended to be a visible symbol of breaking into their own, as far as Arabs in general breaking from the Ottoman Empire, even though it was mainly British controlled, and it really wasn't going to liberate them, but that was British trickery at the time. It later found itself an item of unity due to the colonial empires breaking up states that used to be together under the Ottomans, which is where many ties were still felt, regardless of their new borders, in addition to later yearnings for independence. Arguably one of the most significant was dividing Iraq and Syria, with Syria becoming a French colony and Iraq a British. This was a horrific disappointment and blow to the provisional government that had expected to form a state from northern Syria to Yemen, following the erasure of the Ottoman Empire, which had not enforced regional divisions and instead allowed travel between regions without strong enforcement and documentation. This past history of a shared hard border against foreign incursions, in addition to being saddened by a lack of free travel to both the Holy Land and to see distant relatives, is a strong motivational factor for the pan-Arab ideology. So I'm going to continue talking about the Ba'ath movement. It originated in the 1940s to oppose colonialism, in a nationalist and socialist movement that initiated from Arab Ba'ath Party and was formed by merging the Arab Ba'ath movement and Arab Ba'ath. Before I go any further, the main goal of Baathism is to unite the Arab world. And it kind of reminds me of the communist idea of the whole world being united for workers. And I'm not saying they're communists. My point is, like any coalition, you're having a bunch of ideas thrown together, and it can get very iffy and very tense later on, despite good intentions at first, such as the East African Federation, whose actual unity is seemingly unlikely at present, but still entirely possible. Understood through some success in Iraq and Syria, it would only go on to be truly successful after the UAR, and this was also after having merged with the Arab Socialist Movement in 1954, because it was the UAR which they criticized, and also the Six-Day War with Israel, that really led to them getting popular support. The UAR was the United Arab Republic, which was a combination of Syria and Egypt. And this was the ruling entity over both until a Syrian coup in 1961. And this was definitely not the end of the party, it was much more of a beginning. The Ba'ath Party indirectly used UAR, and its failure especially, to get power, because the Syrians did not like the domination of Egypt culturally and politically, despite enjoying the stability provided by Nasser, who is well known for standing up to the British in terms of the Suez Canal, which is synonymous with opposing colonialism. They truly capitalized on the Syrian revolt of 1961 in direct response to Syria's political parties being eradicated and replaced by authoritarianism in addition to excessive economic dominance by their new Egyptian lords. Despite having expected it to have been an equal alliance, and only having wanted it for stability, which can be seen from the rapid succession of Syrian leaders with no continuum nor continuity of policy being able to have been implemented for any real change. It ended up being like Lithuania and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, in that despite having expected equal representation, its culture ended up being dominated, and although this alliance was much shorter-lived and effective because of the Commonwealth, it was the largest country in an eternally factionalized and divided Europe at one point. Unlike the Lithuanians, the main difference being the other failed in 1795 and did not get a state again until 1918. Syria was a non-entity during this alliance, not even being its own country, and upon losing its identity gradually, the people were greatly upset. Israel prevented a hard border between the two, making things more difficult. Unlike the compact state of the Commonwealth and modern Poland, both of these lacked exclaves. And the idea of it being split, not even geographically touching each other, made things a lot more difficult. Influence was also crucially gained in revising itself and its interest as more of a Western socialism with political unity through similar systems, and thereby easier connections that happen rather than just political unity through a federation, but instead stability through nationalism. And it became a new objective that was well understood in Syria, particularly due to the long, consistent, and continuous leadership of the al-Assads. The implementation beginning following the 8th of March revolution, this neo-Baathism kind of pulled away from full pan-Arabism and focused more on all the Arab countries having a similar form of socialism rather than being directly connected to one another. And this is also the rise of strong leaders and militaries to protect a status quo if one could be formed. The Six-Day War greatly allowed the rise of this consistent authoritarianism because the rise of regional nationalism was greatly boosted by this, in opposition to Israel. With this rising regional nationalism, you saw the Syrian Baathists and the Iraqi Baathists kind of take their own path. And I want to talk about Baathist Iraq in the next video. I was helped a lot by my friend Ace. He really helped out a lot with this. He's from Syria. He knows his history very well, and he was kind of talking me through it, along with the sources I had, because I found some things I didn't know, and some things that weren't clear. And he gave me a really good outline, and I appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.